Hey folks, welcome to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halby. Thanks for being with us. Talking about your family's finances. Look, sometimes you forget that life continues for our parents, our grandparents, and even yourself after age 65. And what do I mean by that? One of the biggest trends, and not in a good way necessarily, that we're seeing is a lot of folks that are seniors are actually getting a divorce after 30, 35 years. The fastest growing group of folks getting divorced, believe it or not, it's called the graying of divorce. And that graying of divorce means that those folks are reaching their senior ages, and they're separating. Now, what does that mean for you? After 30, 40, sometimes 50 years of marriage, do you understand that, of course, everything is split down the middle, but what does that do to your retirement? Because you built your financial life in a way to live on 100% of your money, and now all of a sudden you're stuck saying, I guess we're going to take Social Security instead of paying one house payment and one electric bill. You're now going to have to pay two. And instead of a pension coming in the front door and being able to pay for one family's lifestyle, now there isn't enough money to even pay for two because the costs are quite substantial. So really, you have to give yourself, I think, a little bit of pause if that's going to be the direction that you go on. Many of you already know this. You've already seen your parents or your grandparents divorce. What shocks me more than anything, Logan, is people go through this part of their life and they take it so personally. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's focus for a minute. Your parents divorcing has nothing to do with you. And I don't care how old you are, 2 years old or 62. A lot of you take it personally as if you have something to do with it and you think you should have been consulted and your mom and dad should, it hurts me. I have one client whose daughter is in her 30s and she said she literally told her parents, "You've ruined my life." And so of course the mom and dad were thinking, well, that's the thanks I get for staying together as long as we have, so that you didn't have a divorced family when you were in your teenager years. And yet, the daughter seems to think it's about her. Look, we've raised narcissistic generations. That's called you, the millennials, where everything is about you. Everybody gets a trophy. Nobody's in last place. Nobody's it in freeze tag. Nobody has a problem that is different. Everybody's supposed to be the same, right? We celebrate differences with one side of our mouth, and on the other side, we want everybody to be the same. Well, fast forward, and now a graying divorce starts to happen, and parents are saying, look, this is what we're doing. We're going to separate. And you kids think it's something about you. It has nothing to do with you. And that's one of those killers of retirement accounts, because you take everything and divide by 2. And you take all of the expenses and you multiply them by 2. Now, if you haven't done the math, if it's been a while since algebra, that means you live on about a quarter of what your life is about, right? Because you're dividing by 2 and multiplying by 2. You're kind of going backwards by about 25% of the lifestyle. And it affects a lot of people.
And it does. And it's not something people like to think about or plan. And how do you bring it up even? Hey, honey, I know we're in our 40s now, but just in case we get divorced in 20 years, what kind of planning should we do now?
Yeah. Look, a lot of people have what's called post-nuptial agreements. It often happens when somebody inherits money or inherits real estate, a substantial amount, and they say, look, I am not interested in having this go to my spouse or somebody else. So they'll say, look, I'll take the goodies, the income, the stuff that we get to live on, but we're not going to be able to commingle these assets. Now, sometimes that's a trigger, especially if there's a relationship that's uneasy. We've seen financially one little hiccup, and all of a sudden everybody runs for the exits. Well, guys, that means your relationship was probably not that stable to begin with. So consider this. If you are going to be inheriting money, I don't mean $50,000 or $20,000, although that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it isn't life-changing for the rest of your life. But if you're going to be inheriting money, millions of dollars in some cases, then you might want to consider having a post-nuptial agreement, which means if we get divorced, I still get to keep my stuff and you get to still keep yours. Now listen, always speak to an attorney. You can speak to him privately, right? You don't have to tell your spouse. But I don't want you to think that you're in a financial life where you're going to inherit money and the other person gets it too, right? You can make changes. You can make adjustments. Look, Logan, folks, this is a special place because I'm Arif Halaby, president of Total Financial Solutions, here with my son, Logan Halaby. But I want to tell you now, there's no plan. Me and your mom have. Still pretty happy. Life's good. Don't worry.
Phew, okay.
Yeah.
I was getting a little concerned there with the topic today.
So nothing is, this isn't my way of telling you, like when you go on a Valentine's date and you say you're going to divorce with your wife in the middle of the restaurant so she doesn't throw spaghetti at you. It's not that.
She might throw it anyway.
Yeah. I was like, so I've heard that. Like, so what do you think is going to prevent her from kicking you under the table? I don't know. It's a sensitive topic because for a lot of you, you get to a place in life, and listen, I'm not an advocate for it. I think a lot of bad things come from that, but there are multiple times in life when it makes sense to do things that aren't, that didn't fit into your plan day one of saying I love you, right? This is a different world. And we're talking financially speaking. How are you going to plan for this? Well, this is another part of it. As you are building up your Social Security, remember that when you retire, you get yours and hers, his and hers. But when one of you pass away, you only get the higher of the two. So that means you only get one. Where it really impacts you in retirement is if both Social Security checks are about the same, meaning yours is $2,000 and hers is $2,000. Well, that's $4,000. What percentage of income is lost when one of you passes away?
About half.
Yeah, that's a big deal. As opposed to one is $800 and one is $2,500. Well, certainly $800 is going to change your life.
Right, but when you also add in fewer expenses and that kind of thing, it kind of balances out.
Yeah.
And really, this is a great point that's related to the kind of planning for the divorce. Not that you want a divorce in 10 or 20 years, or you're planning ahead of time. If you're planning now, you might as well just get it over with. But when it comes to
No.
Okay, maybe not, but the same kind of mindset and same kind of issues that could occur from a divorce at an older age, some of the same issues come from if someone passes away or the main breadwinner is disabled or unable to work. Now, they're no longer providing income in the same way that they were, and they've got to deal with the medical bills possibly or physical therapy and all of these related things. A lot of it is a similar impact on the family compared to the divorce would be.
And look, we had a recent case where a client's in my office and, the parent and the son were arguing. And the son couldn't figure out why in his 30s he couldn't still continue to live at home and get a check from his mom. And she was saying, son, I have only a certain amount of my retirement account and I can't keep giving you money. So she came in to me. I guess I didn't know if I was going to be the Dr. Phil of the conversation. But by sitting there, it was shocking to me because I was never raised this way. But the son sits there and says, if you don't give me money now, Mom, I am not going to take care of you when you get older. I'm like, are you kidding me? The kid is in his 30s and he's a man, right? I had, my second house by the time I was in my 30s. And he somehow felt that he was entitled to receive money from his parent because she had what he thought was a lot. And it wasn't, by the way. It's not like $10 million where, she's spending $2,000 a month and there's enough to left over. This was her life. This was her life savings. So keep in mind, you guys, that you might have raised a monster. Maybe you didn't plan on him being a monster, but sometimes these kids, men and women, are just arrogant or not so nice, right? And sometimes you have 3 children and one of them turns out to be a pain in the tush. Well, listen, it's obviously not you, right? Because you did your best. It's the same genetics. One of them decided to go one way. It's like when you have kids, right? One of them decides to be friends with the good crowd and one decides to be friends with the not so good crowd. It's the way people spend money as well. Today, everybody has a choice. You want to be an indentured servant, meaning you're trying to pay off your living for the rest of your life. Number 1, get a student loan. Number 2, go get in a credit card debt. Number 3, go buy a car and put it on a 5 or 7 or 8 year payoff. You're working for something that goes, you are working for something that goes down in value every single day, and you are, on the other hand, trying to make more money every single day where taxes go up because you guys didn't have the the guts to vote down the gas tax. Oh, not me, Irv. Well, yeah, then the neighbor. And so you've just chased out a whole boatload of people. I don't know if you know this, but Allstate Insurance has moved out all of its claims people. It has just a few more months to go, and it's going to move out everybody from the state of California. Oh, that's only just another business. Oh, this socialist model, these Democrats, oh, we got more Democrats, right? You guys in Santa Clarita voted for another one. They've already, there's a supermajority. They've already jacked up the state. Unless you're telling me that $900 billion in debt, when you add state and local debt and pension debt, just the pension debt is $400 billion. You're telling me that that's such a great job. Let's vote another Democrat into office. Oh, okay. Well, do you wonder why you're going to be the last one holding the bag? A very wealthy, a local guy, a very wealthy guy moved out of state. I won't even tell you the state because you might know who he is. Moved out of state recently. And when he was asked by a friend of mine, he said, "Hey, so why do you move out of the state?" He said, "Because I don't want to be the last wealthy guy still living in the state." And we kind of chuckled. He said that you are the enemy. If you have any money, if you've created any business success, if you've created any wealth, if you've actually employed people, not a government worker who takes a paycheck, but if you're a business owner that employs people, created a job for people, created an opportunity for people to learn, then they punish you. So is there any wonder that the pressure on seniors these days is financial because you're paying more taxes than ever? Your Social Security is not going up, and yet we have a 2%, 3% cost of living increase. So you guys have to plan. You have to have retirement accounts that you can turn on at a later date just to make up the difference between the cost of living and your pensions and Social Security that are probably not going to increase at the same rate. They just can't mathematically, right? It's like a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi schemes work great at the beginning because there's more money coming in than going out. But when you're starting to pay out money, not just what they put in, but also paying them interest, there just isn't enough money. It goes away very quickly. It's like a snowballing effect. That's why Ponzi schemes blow up. Well, is it any wonder that the current budget situation in the state of California, every year that passes, we have a double-digit, we're behind double-digit percentages than the year before. Well, somebody has to pay this. Or you're going to go to the teachers, the police officers, the firefighters, the city workers, and you're going to tell them, hey, guys, listen, I know we promised. I know we gave you. I know you gave up vacation days or you took less of a pay raise so you could have a pension. I know we promised all that. But sorry, there just isn't money. Oh, but Arif, you don't understand. They signed a contract. It doesn't matter, you guys. 1 + 1 is 2. I can sign 50 pieces of paper that say 1 + 1 is 17. It just still isn't. And these same state politicians, one party, by the way, and if it was the other party, folks, if you knew me, you'd know I'd have the integrity to say the Republicans would be full of baloney. But unfortunately, right now, the only states that are running anything decent and cities are Republican-run cities and states. Listen, I don't care. Who cares? Call them, Bozo the Clown and Mickey Mouse. I don't care what you call them. One is doing a better job, and one is not. So, but it's too late. You guys voted for the wrong people, in my opinion, right? Of course. So you have to start preparing that you may end up, whether it be, look at the market, guys, right? What are we now? 15, 20% down from our highs, whatever it is. Some of your portfolios are way below. When we come back from the break in a minute, I'm going to tell you today, not last week or some story. I'm going to tell you today, this morning, what came into the office and what we've done and what's happened with people that are shocked, okay? Because you have to plan and protect yourself. If you think voting in whoever, we've already a mess. It wouldn't have mattered if you voted in all Republicans this time and a Republican governor, wouldn't matter. The mess is already laid and it's already there. So we're going to eventually, it's just how bad was the last election. So this is part of the, let's see where the chips fall. All right, so plan and protect for yourself, because when we come back, I'm going to tell you a real life story from just this morning. One is a 63-year-old and one is a 60-year-old, okay? All right, we'll be back in just a minute. I'm Arif Halaby, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. That's Logan Halaby, your place for news, talk, and information. This is your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
This Christmas, join us for the ultimate holiday concert, A Very Merry Christmas with the Letterman, Sunday, December 9th, 5 p.m. at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center. The legendary Letterman here in Santa Clarita singing your favorite holiday classics. Joining them is Santa Clarita's singing sensation, Savannah Burrows, along with our very own West Ranch High School choir. You'll also hear the Letterman perform their string of top 10 hits. A Very Merry Christmas with the Letterman.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
The Letterman, Savannah Burrows, and West Ranch Choir, Sunday, December 9th. For tickets, visit canyonspack.com.
Merry Christmas.
You choose your dry cleaner for convenience. Maybe it's time to choose a dry cleaner that is not only convenient, but does quality work at a reasonable price. Town Cleaners. They're in the center of our valley, and they offer free pickup and delivery anywhere in Santa Clarita. Town Cleaners, a dry cleaner who goes the extra step. Their stringent quality control ensures the highest quality cleaning and pressing for your garments. And now through February, save 50% on all dry cleaning orders. Town Cleaners on Soledad and Rainbow Glen.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the total financial hour. Now higher income strategy. Learn from Arif Halaby. Learn about financial power, the total financial hour. Now Arif has a plan for me. Higher income strategy. I'll retire.
Hey, welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour. Thanks for staying with me. I'm Arif Halaby. Look, this is Logan Halaby. We're talking about your family's finances. All right, these are retirement killers. Let me give you a good example. Time is one of those, and here's a good example for this. A client came in today. She is 63 years old. 5 years ago, so in her mid-50s, she opened an account. It was a variable annuity. A variable annuity she had, she thought, paid no fees, because that's what the broker told her. No fees. Okay, well, we said, all right, well, I've never heard of one of those, but let's give the company a call. So ahead of me, planning to come in this morning, she says she's going to call the company ahead of time. So she calls the company. She finds out that she's paying $65 a month in fees is what she tells me. That's what the broker told her. And she said, I'm surprised. I thought, something's still wrong. Let's take a look. So we call up the company. 5 years ago, July, she put in $200,000. Today, it's worth $200,247. You follow me? She's made $247 in 5 years? Does that make sense to you? Well, then at least she's only paid $65 in fees. No. She's paid $34,000 in fees. So Wall Street, the broker, the financial company, whomever, it left her pocket and went to her broker about $34,000 in fees, guys. And she's made $247. So she's lost time. So even if she just had it into an account where she was making 3% a year, that would be $6,000 a year in the same 5 years. She would at least have $230,000, $232,000, something like that with some compounding, right? That means the broker made money, not her. So another gentleman comes in later in the morning, had a trust, did well, about $1 million in the trust. He now has he lost $36,000 last month. $36,000, and he pays $30,000 a year. Okay, do you understand that the broker isn't doing anything? They put it into an account. It goes in there. I don't care if he made half of it. He gets it when he golfs. She gets it when she's out shopping, golfing, where they're in Fiji, wherever they're doing. You have to make sure. Now, listen, if you're making me more money than it's costing me, and I'm willing to look at that deal, I go, hey, that's pretty good. You make me $10,000, I'll give you $2,000. I like that. Heck, if you made me 10, I might even give you 3 because I'll keep the 7. That's not a bad deal. But don't lose my money and then charge me a fee. Right? Look, a lot of you aren't going to completely understand this, and I'm okay with that, but realize that when the markets are down today 2%, in some cases, 1.5%, 2%, your family's finances need to be a bit more, I don't know, predictable maybe? So one of the killers that we say, watch out for these 10 retirement killers. We talked about divorce, the graying of America, the graying of the divorces, right? People after 25, 35, 40 years are getting separated. What about health conditions? Logan, we see that as hitting folks, of course, that are a little older.
And it is. And this list of 10 retirement killers we're looking at here, 2 of them are different forms of health, and probably more of them, because it has a big impact on all sorts of your life and your retirement. You have the most obvious part is the medical bills, which if someone says medical expenses, we all jump to that, the doctor's bills, the prescriptions, that kind of, those things. That's the obvious, the visible kind of concerns.
Yeah, because you're going to have certain medical bills, and that rides down the above and beyond the deductible, above and beyond the copay. Sometimes it's just not covered. And you guys, what are you doing? We have clients going to Mexico. We have clients going to the Caribbean for treatment that they think will help or sustain their life. And Medicare isn't paying it. Right? You guys decided to give the government. When Obamacare was passed, do you realize it was passed just before midnight? And only Democrats voted on it? Did you know that? Oh, we don't know that. We're studying about, trans something or other. Do you realize when Obamacare was passed, why was it passed at midnight? Because a new senator was being sworn in at 12:01, and that new senator would have flipped the balance, and the Senate wouldn't have passed it. So you understand it was a political move. It wasn't an economic move. It isn't people that think about math. It was people that thought about politics to get more votes for the next election. Right? It's how the president was reelected, the last president. Right? So now the health conditions, the government is now in charge of your health, meaning they get to decide if you are worth keeping. We talked about this 5 years ago. Oh, the death panels. And, we said, oh, that's a little bit overblown. There isn't going to be a group of people saying, you die, you live, you die, you're too sickly. But guess what exactly is happening? A friend of mine's father is in the middle of this. Sorry, you're too old. He's like, I'm pretty active. I'm 83. I'm very active. Yep, sorry, you're too old. 83 is just, you've passed the number. He's all like, well, but I'll pay for it. Well, listen, you got to get in line. Is that not wacky to you? Have you guys not figured out that, okay, well, it used to only be the rich people. Well, oh yeah, it was. But rich people have always had better cars and better clothes. And I don't know if it's fair or right. It just happens to be. But now what you've done is you've brought the top down instead of bringing the bottom up. One of the biggest things I think people don't realize is they're working longer. And by working longer, there's other things that can happen.
And you're spending more time at work and with the expenses related to work. And that means that if you're retiring later, you're not going to be able to enjoy retirement in the same way. You right now probably not going to get any younger in the near future. For most people, this is probably the best time that they're going to be health-wise as well. If you retire at age 70, are you going to be able to go hike Machu Picchu or something like that?
Yeah, well, you're the youngest and healthiest you've ever been. So you might say, well, I'm going to get healthier because that knee replacement's going to happen. Fantastic, but you're still not going to get younger. And being laid off and spending money during a period of unemployment can affect you as well. Because, Logan, we're seeing that as people are saying, well, listen, you're 70, you're 68. Here's what took place in 2008. We saw this happen all the time. Folks would come to me, they say, I planned on retiring and collecting Social Security at 65. But when layoffs came, I was one at 62 that got laid off. So now either I have to collect Social Security sooner, which means it's a smaller amount, or try to find a job. So during the time of either severance package or unemployment, they would look for work, couldn't find it, nobody would hire them, or there just weren't jobs. And so people ended up collecting Social Security earlier. Well, that can happen again. Folks that were in their 50s back in 2008 are now in their early 60s. So you may plan on taking Social Security at 65, 66, 70, but being laid off ahead of time and still having to spend money, of course, to live might impact your savings.
Exactly. And people don't realize that, okay, Social Security can be turned on earlier than planned. You just get a lower amount. However, it means the rest of your income is going to be making up the shortfall. And if you were planning to earn a set amount for your Social Security and have it last you 20 years, well, all of a sudden that Social Security is 10 or 20% lower, and you need your extra funds to last 25 or 30 years. You're making up a bigger difference.
You know, that's a great point, because we're using those extra funds to supplement Social Security, right? The difference between what I needed to spend and live on and what Social Security checks are. So if Social Security checks are a little higher, then the difference is a much smaller amount from my personal savings in order to live the same lifestyle.
Exactly. And if you're adding 2 or 3 more years of having to do this,
sure,
that has a big impact on what you can actually do with your retirement and how long it's going to last.
Yeah, and that leads to one of our other retirement killers, which is being in a place where you have big financial hits, losses to what you thought your accounts were supposed to be. All of a sudden, you're going to get hit, just like the folks today. Right? Gentleman came in and he said, I lost $36,000 last month. Okay, do you realize that that's about all he's made in the last year and a half, and everything was gone in 1 month? Brokers still took their fee. He still is going to be paying taxes on what he takes out, so the government doesn't care because they know he needs to live on $6,000 a month. So if he needs to live on $6,000, he's going to pull out $6,000. So the government still gets its tax on the same amount. They don't tax the remaining amount of dollars that are in there, whether it's $2 million or $800. They don't tax that. They do tax what he pulls out, which means the loser in the scenario is not the brokerage or the Wall Street. The loser is not him directly because his income is still $6,000, and the loser is not the government. The loser is his future, because his future is now reduced by that bucket of dollars.
Exactly, and when you're pulling out the set amount and the total bucket you have to pull from is lower, that's going to have a big effect on what you can do with your future, how much stress you're going to have about how well you're going to be able to sleep at night, and really what you're going to be able to do. If you had planned your retirement and everything was perfectly set up so you could do 2 vacations a year and drive this kind of car and live in this neighborhood, and all of a sudden your income is cut by a substantial amount, 10%, 20% more, depends on what's going on, are you going to now do 1 vacation a year? Drive a worse car?
Yeah. So where do you live? What do you look at as an option or a place to be? Do you relocate to a different city? You know, with you guys all passing the gas tax, really you have a chance to say 2 things. One of those is, okay, we're going to continue paying $4 a gallon gas is now called normal. Now, look, a lot of the millennials are doing the Uber thing or the public transportation, or they, live downstairs or upstairs from their job. Okay. But the groceries that you eat have to be driven in a truck. The electricity that you use is often run by oil. And a lot of the gas tax and the taxation of these things filters through the system, one form or fashion or another.
That Uber driver still pays gas?
Yep. And do you realize Uber is going to raise rates? Why? Because the workers are going to say we need more money because we have to pay more gas. It doesn't live in a vacuum. You don't get to, it used to be that you could go get the rich. They're bad, go get them. And today, nearly all of you are wealthy in one way or another, meaning to be poor in America means you have carpet on the floor, you have 3 meals a day. Listen, it might be a prepackaged burrito or a French toast like I used to get in elementary school when we got the free lunches, right? That's what I had to do my whole life. I thought everybody got those little free tickets. I didn't realize you had to actually buy them. right? I never knew that you could buy food. I thought we got the free things, right? But everybody today has food. Everybody today has. Now listen, I get it. We have a great food program. You have air conditioning. You have a cell phone. It's not the same. Travel to any third world country and see where the 7 and 8 or 9-year-olds, instead of being in school, are digging through dumps just to find recycled metals so they can sell them. Called India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, parts of China, right? There's not all throughout Africa. It isn't just like it's one place. So the chance to work, some of you, I want your mind to stay fresh. You're going to have to still work in retirement, because if you don't, there's not a lot of other things to do. When we talk about moving or relocating, a lot of people are doing that. But remember your family. The one thing you deal with every day, number 1 is the weather. Number 2 is your family. So those two things have to fit in with wherever you're going to live. So if you say, you know how cheap you can live in Minnesota? Well, yeah, it's minus 24 for 3 weeks out of the year. Probably go to, maybe the Bahamas that time of year. But a lot of people are getting to a place where they just can't afford it. It's actually easier to afford 2 places to live than one. All right, here's another one. I don't want you to procrastinate. You realize that 6 out of 10 Americans are procrastinating after age 60. Eventually they'll get to it. Eventually they'll start it. But they're not doing it.
Tomorrow never comes. It's always tomorrow. When you get to tomorrow, there's still another tomorrow. And when it comes to your finances, that time is what your biggest resource. If you have the ability to contribute and put money away for 10 years instead of 5 years or 20 or 30, the more time you have, the less you actually have to put in yourself, and the more you can allow for interest to grow and math and compound interest to help you out instead of trying to make it all up at once.
Yeah, sometimes what we'll do is when folks will come to us, especially if they were laid off or there's a divorce or a death in the family or something, we'll sit down and say, okay, here's what I would recommend. If you're looking at the math on this and we're trying to figure out how to create a better, source of income, then one of the options, believe it or not, okay, you were going to retire at 65, but we might be able to do it if you retire at 70. So you were going to work anyway, but we just plan on income starting a little bit later, which means Social Security can be a little higher. You have another 5 years in addition to your current age of earning income, which is nice, which is earning some growth in your retirement accounts. I know, don't hate me for this one, but you're 5 years closer to dying. So that means you're not going to be pulling from your retirement accounts as long. That's the yucky part, but
it's 5 fewer years you have to provide for yourself. Let's think.
There you go.
Think about it that way.
There you go. 5 less years that you have to pay for your own dinner before being dinner. All right, let's get another one. How about making bad investments? We've talked about that. Oh my gosh. Folks, I'm not a fan of accounts that have risk and fees. Okay, now you might say, but that means everything. It's not true. There are financial products that have a profit built in to pay us, to pay the financial professional. They are. When you go into a bank, you don't walk into a bank and give 50 cents to the teller, $1 to the manager, $1 to the security guard. Why not? Because you know you're going to put your money in, they're going to pay you one interest rate, they're going to lend it out and make a higher interest rate, and they're going to keep the difference. That's called a profit, right? Simple. Everybody knows that. We know the electric bill was paid. Why? Well, because the electricity's on. But you know that they're going to pay you an interest rate that's still going to allow them to make a profit. That is the same thing with other financial products. I think Wall Street used to say, but we're doing this and we're doing that. And so they actually had a purpose. They were in there doing things, buying, selling, managing. But today it's all pre-programmed. It's all computer-driven. So there is really a little reason to pay that broker except, well, his kids need to go to college. And they want to take a nice vacation this year. So be very careful. Make sure you're receiving something because you're going to be giving something. You're paying for something. And I don't want you to be stuck in a corner where, as in the 2 examples this morning, and I can give you 10 of these in the last 3 weeks. I mean, they happen all the time. Where when you look at the math and you go, wait a second, the only one who's won out of this whole story is the financial company and the broker. The client earned this $200,000. She made it. It's over. It's her money. The broker had nothing to do with making it. And why is the broker getting a fee on those dollars when he or she had nothing to do with making those dollars? In fact, based on the age of the client and the age on the broker was in junior high school, maybe even elementary at the time. So why is he entitled to $500, $400 a month out of that account when he wasn't even, didn't even know math, right? So I want you to be a little bit angry about this, a little bit bugged about it, because somebody has to watch out for you. And if you're the one that's responsible for your mom or for your dad, you need to be careful, because somebody needs to keep an eye on your stuff as well. And somebody needs to make sure if your mom and dad are taken care of. All right, we're going to take another break here, and we're going to come back, finish up at the top of the hour. A couple more things that I want you to watch out for, some retirement killers. And then I also want to finish up with what I think Americans are losing when it comes to retirement. Because it doesn't have to be age 65 or 66. You can actually retire a lot sooner and live a little bit healthier when we come right back. On your place for news, talk, and information, this is your hometown station. I'm Arif Halaby with the Total Financial Hour on KHTS. We'll be right back.
Tucked away in Canyon Country is an upscale, intimate, unforgettable dining experience. Taste the wonders of Italy at Piccola Trattoria. This gem of a restaurant is our valley's best-kept secret, but not for long. The secret will be out once you've tasted their homemade pastas, pizzas, ossobuco, or their scrumptious sausage, fresh seafood, or steaks. Better save room for dessert. Your table will be fighting over who gets the final bite of their heavenly tiramisu. Piccola Trattoria, off Sierra Highway on Dolan Way. Your unforgettable dining experience.
Hey there, I'm Tori with your hometown station weather. Should be a nice week this week. Cooler temperatures. Sunny skies today with highs in the 70s. By the time we get to Thanksgiving, cooler temperatures. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or find us on Facebook at KHTS Radio.
Your hometown station.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
This Christmas, join us for the ultimate holiday concert, A Very Merry Christmas with the Letterman, Sunday, December 9th, 5 p.m. at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center. The legendary Letterman here in Santa Clarita singing your favorite holiday classics. Joining them is Santa Clarita's singing sensation, Savannah Burrows, along with our very own West Ranch High School choir. You'll also hear the Letterman perform their string of top 10 hits. A Very Merry Christmas with the Letterman.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
The Letterman, Savannah Burrows, and West Ranch Choir, Sunday, December 9th. For tickets, visit canyonspack.com.
Merry Christmas.
Great healthcare just got easier and more convenient in Canyon Country. Facey Canyon Country is now open directly off the Soledad Canyon exit off the 14 freeway. The 37,000 square foot clinic houses Facey Medical Group primary care physicians, pediatricians, and specialists. Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the Total Financial.
Hey, welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour, on your place for news, talk, and information. Your hometown station, KHTS. I'm Arif Halaby. Total Financial Solutions sponsors the program, makes this possible. All right, we're going to finish up with a couple more, or at least one more. Retirement killer. It's one of them that I think is important for you to understand. And when we talk about, making bad investments or bad choices, there's a couple of ways that you could be, I guess, in a bad spot. One is the fees can eat up the account. Number two is you can have some risk.
And risk and fees are significant because of the time that's lost as well. So you put in money, you pull a fee out, and then that fee is never again able to earn any interest.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
gone.
interest that fee would have earned on top of it, and on top of it, all that's gone. And then guess what happens again next year? Another fee and another fee.
So here's a good example. We had a client that said, my broker said that I would never run out of money because I'm taking out 4% a year. We said, okay, that's 4% a year. We looked at it. But their fees were 3.5%. So 3.5 plus 4, that means 7.5%. So that means the account was going backwards 7.5%. There's no way you're going to average that over, any period of time. So in other words, it's accelerating and going against you very rapidly. So the fees are just like you're taking money out. Well, I guess you are.
Broker's taking the money out. You aren't.
I always say that because a client did this once. I thought it was, I guess, macabre, but still funny. Said, Arif, that's a BMW payment. I said, it is. You are buying a BMW. And they looked at me funny. I go, just your broker's driving it. It's his car.
Or his boat or whatever.
Not yours. It is a payment. You are making a payment. Just you don't get to drive the car. So they kind of chuckled a little bit, but we both knew it was a pretty sad time. All right. Hey, how do you prevent some of this stuff? How do you keep yourself from going backwards, from not having enough money in retirement? And a way it's going to happen is by doing something we call laddering. I'll let Logan explain.
Great. So what you do is you take if you have a large chunk of money and you break it up and you figure this portion is supposed to last me 3 years. So your investment choices and what you can do with it is set up for that time frame. And then you take the next portion, and that's set up for 5 or 6 years, and then another portion for 10 years. And so as you drain the first account, the other two are able to grow. And then as the second account turns on, after the first 3 years are up, the 10-year account is able to continue to grow. And then once the shorter-term accounts are both used up and they've served their purpose, the 10-year account takes over, and it carries on for the rest of your life is the plan.
And the idea is this. Look, you're always going to have an account turn on and give you a secondary source of income. Like if you have a pension that starts at age 60, Social Security at 62, another pension at 65 years old, by always having a series of income coming in and turning on for you, it gives you multiple sources of income that aren't related to the market. So it means, okay, maybe you have a rental property. Well, real estate is up, real estate's down. Well, that's fine. It's not the main source of your income. Some of your income comes from Social Security. Oh, well, Social Security is not going to give you a pay raise for the next 5 years. Well, that's okay because you have your own retirement accounts that you can take a little bit more money out of. You follow me? You're going to have multiple sources that are not related to whatever the economic situation or conditions are that affect the rest of your retirement income. Now, one of the things people kind of go through, Logan, and they say, well, I'm going to retire at age 65 or 70 or whatever the number is. If the numbers work, financially speaking, in other words, you keep debt low, you don't waste your money and your time on student loans, you keep your debt low so you're not buying food, shelter, clothing on credit cards because that's a catastrophe waiting to happen, and you keep your expenses low so that you're not buying stuff you don't need. And instead you prioritize your own saving and investing. And what that does is it gives you multiple sources of income at an early age. That means you're allowed to retire at age 50, 55, or 60 while you're still young. As Logan was mentioning, it's the youngest and healthiest you're ever going to be. And it gives you a chance to travel or volunteer or work in a completely different career. And a lot of people are doing that.
Yes, we have a client who worked for many years as an engineer with a big firm and did very well there. He retired a few years ago, and since then he's been working as a one-on-one student aide, essentially, with a school, one of the local schools here, basically as the one-on-one
with the special needs
assistant
child.
And he's been paired with this child for 3 or 4 years now, something like that. He still gets paid a little bit, but it's somewhere between minimum wage and that's about it. And honestly, because he had his career originally and he managed his finances properly, what didn't go crazy on spending and buying things he couldn't afford, at this point, his home, his food, his shelter, his car, all that's covered by what he did before, and he doesn't need the paychecks from this school job. he was forgetting to cash them.
Yeah,
until
yeah.
they set
Look at it this way, because this changes a lot of things. You know, your life is about this. When you are sitting there trying to figure out the big part of how you're going to live, I don't want you to think that stuff is more important than experiences, because a lot of people accumulate stuff in their life. Listen, if you have enough money to do both, fine, if that's your thing. But if you don't, find out what you value. And you and your spouse should both sit down and say, look, we don't want to be part of the graying divorce, right? We don't want to be part of that group that divorces after the kids, even grandkids are born and off to college. We're going to find purpose and value in each other and in life. And that has to come from understanding how money works. You might say, oh, I've never been good at it. Well, you can change that. Today, information is free. You want to learn how to build a nuclear reactor or speak French or build a computer, you can do that on your free Obama phone with government Wi-Fi. I mean, you can get all this stuff for free. Right? There's no excuse except laziness. Oh, Arif, time. Okay, sleep 15 minutes less. Read a book, sleep 15 minutes less. That's going to change your life? From 8 hours to 7:45 or 7 hours to 6:45? You have to take responsibility. Nobody can make you happy. Nobody can make you sad. Nobody can make you feel inferior. Nobody can make you feel stupid. These are all up to you. You see, I'm glad that I had the right people in my life telling me that, because otherwise I would be running around being offended all the time. If those words ever come out of your mouth, you ought to sit and think for a minute, because it's your problem, not theirs. If I can say the same thing in a room of 6 people and one of them is offended, who's the variable? The person. Right? Don't be around me if you don't like me. I won't be around you if I don't like you. I won't work here. I'll get a new job. Today there's 6 million jobs, you guys. You don't like it, go get a different one. Well, you don't understand here if I've got seniority and tenure. All right, well then go get 2 jobs. I don't know. Everybody's put up with baloney from somebody somewhere at some time. Go back to school. I did. Sleep in your car. I did. Right? There's very little places that you can go to your life and say, gosh, I'm in my 40s, I got laid off. I'm sorry, it really stinks. So go get 2 jobs, go back to school. Nobody says you're supposed to stay home and have, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and have dinner at 6 and work 2 weeks vacation and be at the kids' baseball games all the time. I didn't get a chance to do all that stuff. Some I did, some I got to do amazing things. So ask yourself, who's going to work for you and your family? It better be you. And the last thing I want you to do is to spend money on a child's college education or student loans, because the return of investment on that stuff is negative. It's not even, single-digit percentages anymore. I think today you're looking at an exchange. In fact, I did it 15 years ago. In a couple months, it'll be 15 years on this station. 15 years ago, I started talking about, I think you're going to see 30 to 50% less colleges in this country within 30 years. So that means in the next 15 years, I think colleges are going to be cut in half. Why? Because number one, it's just like a Ponzi scheme. The cost to go to college when I went to UCLA was $2,700. Today it's $27,000. Are people making 10 times the income? I made $32,000 a year back then. Would that same guy with that same job and that same qualifications make $320,000? No. So why is college 10 times the cost? So do you see how it's starting to get out of control? Well, it has been out of control. Student loan debt. I remember when it hit $100 million, we were concerned. Today we're 1.3 trillion dollars. More money than we spend in the United States. So you guys have to focus. I think colleges and universities are a wonderful place if you can afford them and you can control them. But don't borrow money to send your kids to college so they come back thinking America is a worse place, thinking you're out of touch, and disagreeing with your values. You have to think, it used to be your generation needed a bachelor's degree to get a job. Theirs does not. Your generation needed to learn to drive at 16, And I remember it was 16 years in 1 week because I couldn't get an appointment at the DMV. I was so bothered that extra week. Today there are 20-year-olds who don't even have a driver's license because they bum rides from their friends, they Uber it, take Lyft. So don't think that get a college degree at all costs. Go to a community college. We have the best one in the state, probably one of the top 5 in the country right here. I know because it's in your backyard you poo-poo it, but really, it's probably one of the best around. And so what if it takes you 6 years because you're working 2 part-time jobs? Then you work 2 part-time jobs. 6 years and 6 minutes, you have 0 student loan debt and a college degree. Or 6 years and 6 minutes, you've been out of college for 2 years with $80,000 in student loan debt. Which one would you rather be? So show some perspective. And remember that your kid's college is nice, but you cannot borrow money for retirement. You cannot work a second job and be retired at the same time. All right, guys? So protect you and your family. I'm Arif Halaby. You have any questions? 888-99-RETIRE, 888-99-RETIRE, 888-997-3847. And that's Logan. Thanks for being with me, Logan.
No problem. Thanks for having us, folks.
All right, folks. Your place for news, talk, and information. This is your hometown station, the Total Financial Hour on KHTS.
KHTS.